Fish, I want. Bare hand, I want. But I can't have both, so I'll take the bare hand instead of the fish. Hey, guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. The midterms. It's happening. And why am I still making album reviews in the middle of the fucking midterms? Anyway, believe me, I'm doing this album review because I want to. Because today I'm not gonna do a mini albums review that's typical. I'm gonna be doing a 2016 edition of mini albums review because news have broken that I'm gonna be doing a 2016 list week in the middle of the year because why not? So before that, I want to start talking about albums that I want to talk about. So I'm going to be talking about 4 good-ass albums and 2 terrible albums. So let's start off with YG's Still Brazy. By the way, I'm going to talk about albums that I love and hate particularly, and albums that I need to explain why I love them or why I hate them, and albums that aren't too big, because big albums like Frank Ocean's Blonde, Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool are reserved for full-length album reviews. So yeah, oh, my teeth hurts. I just went to the dentist this morning, and the braces, it got tightened up. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna try my best. So YG is a rapper from California, USA, and this album, Still Brazy, is surprisingly one of the better West Coast rap albums I've heard in the entire decade, with the really slick and grimy production, the really nice gangsta flow from YG. YG's performance is amazing, and the album starts off with Don't Come to LA, which is a very grimy and smooth beginning to the album, a great tone setter, and I really like the eerie and troublesome instrumentals, and the rest of the album are also really amazing. We have Who Shot Me, which takes a more stripped back production but with a heavier narrative. The beat reminds me a lot of Dr. Dre and the kind of beats that Dr. Dre would produce for Eminem earlier on. And I also like the lyrics on the track, talking about betrayal and paranoia, and I also really like the glistening pianos after the midpoint of the track. And the third track, Word is Bond, is also pretty nice actually. It's another grimy West Coast banger with nice catchy hooks. And then we have Twist My Fingaz. Just do my dance, cuff my pants, twist my fingers with my hands. It's really, really catchy. The hook is killer, and this track actually has a Without Me vibe. Eminem's track Without Me, it has this vibe for some reason, but yet it's still so good. The beat also reminds me a lot of old school Snoop Dogg as well. And then we have the track Gimmie Got Shot, where YG kind of raps in the perspectives of his own friends, and I think that's really interesting as well. And we have tracks like I Got a Question, featuring Lil Wayne, which is one of the milder cuts on the album, not that eventful. The beat is not that great, it's kind of weak actually, but the performances are still pretty good. And then the next track is Why You Always Hatin', featuring Drake and another person I forgot. But yeah, this is actually some really fun, wild, arena-sized rap, West Coast rap with some rattling hi-hats, thus the trap flavor, and it's pretty raw and energetic as well. And then we have Bool, Balm, and Bollective, which is kind of funny because he's trying to do the B letter thing concept, because this track is essentially a sequel to a track he released before, and same concept, same premise, but a cooler performance and a stronger beat and a stronger hook. And then we have the track She Wish She Was. Even though this track sounds kind of sexist if you take it at face value, but I think ultimately what YG's trying to say on this track is that he's trying to warn a woman to not fall into this temptation of, living like a gangsta. And then we have the title track, which is awesome. A really fun, raw, bouncy, West Coast nostalgic banger. A lot of 90s West Coast influences here, and the music video sounds like a mix of Tupac and Biggie. It's really awesome, and the hook is awesome and very, very memorable and sticky as well. This shit, Brazy. And then we have FDT, one of the most memorable singles from YG, actually the most, because FDT stands for Fuck Donald Trump. And it's one of the best anti-Trump songs I've ever heard. I've heard a great deal of shitty anti-Trump songs. And I've also heard a number of good ones, and this one, if this is not one of the best, it's the best. I kind of like the really angry spoken word intro, which leads to a very fun and catchy beat with some bitter pianos and grimy guitars. And this track overall is such a blunt statement. YG and Nipsey Hussle never really went into deep political topics, but on this track they sheerly express their hatred for Trump, and it's so blunt, it's so angry, it's actually really entertaining, and I like it a lot. And then we have Black and Browns, which is also a more political track, where YG talks about the friendship between African Americans and Mexicans, and the instrumentals, they are sadder, more troublesome, but also catchier. And then we have the album ending Police Get Away with Murder, also a very politically charged rap song, and the instrumentals, they are very urgent, very immediate, very kind of cold and chilly as well, killer, monstrous beat. And YG talks about protecting himself and his friends not only from other people from other gangs, but also from the policemen. And it's really well said. I just really like how YG blended these G-funk West Coast sounds with these politically charged lyrical topics. It's a really solid rap album, and I have to give it an 8 out of 10. My favorite track is FDT, and my least favorite is it's a tough pick. I got a question. Yeah, I got a question. And then let's talk about the second album that I really, really love, and it is Angel Olsen's My Woman. So, Angel Olsen is a singer-songwriter from USA who specializes in indie folk rock tunes. And, this album, it's awesome. It's awesome. Another really solid, sweet album with muscular and charismatic performances and very sweet, beautiful hooks. Some of the tracks here are more punk rock infused, and some other tracks here are more long-winded, sadder, a little more folkier. The album starts off with Intern, which has some really dreamy, slow, cloudy synths, which are more stripped back and quiet, and Angel Olsen singing in a very moody, clear way, almost crooning, and it's actually really beautiful and nice, refreshing way to open up the album. And then it's Never Be Mine, which is such a great track. You'll never be mine, you'll never be mine, you'll never be mine. The vocal performance is actually really sorrowful. It's full of agony, it's full of pain, and the instrumentals, the guitars on this thing, they feel happy and sad at the same time. It's beautiful, it's very catchy, and it has this 60s, 70s vibe to it that goes really well. And then we have Shut Up Kiss Me, which is one of the best songs I've heard in 2016. We got these buzzy electric guitars, these romping drums that are loud and bold, and these vocal shouts and screams. And after the midpoint of the track, when it finally hits the chorus, the vocals, they just becomes very loud and gargantuan and almost echoey, and it's pretty bold, it's pretty ambitious, and I just really love it. I love the sweet hook as well. Shut up, kiss me, hold me tight. The attitude displayed by Angel Olsen is really sassy, really charismatic, and I love how she goes from being seductive to very strong and muscular multiple times on the track. Truly a great track. And then we have Give It Up, which has this 70s, 90s mix, very Nirvana flavored, but in a very good way, of course. The vocal harmonies are beautiful. It has a very nice folky vibe to it, and I really like the confident, trembly, raw guitars that are really crispy and well performed. And then we have Not Gonna Kill You, which is also a great track in my opinion. At the beginning, Angel Olsen does this crazy vocal acrobatics, and it's pretty fun actually. And the track overall is really fun as well, with some, what the hell did I write? With some fun, raw, chunky instrumentals. Chunky is the word, I believe. I don't know. Jivey, yeah. Anyway, the instrumentals, they are pretty quiet at first, but then it builds up to a very nice explosive climax, and the tension of the build-up of the tension is really great in my opinion, really tasteful. The way the momentum is being built is awesome, and in the middle we get these spacey instrumental passages where Angel Olsen sort of shouts in it, and it's actually really tasteful and flavorful. The next track, Heart-Shaped Face, is also really nice, except it's a little stale, it's a little slower, it drags on for a little bit, but nonetheless still love the vocal performance. It's kind of seductive, and it's very soft. The track Sister is almost 8 minutes long. It's long-winded, it's kind of sad, but it has this very nice, promising vibe to it. The hook in the middle of the track is very catchy, and the climax is awesome with the angelic vocal harmonies and the very beautiful pianos. And we have Those Were the Days, which is a more whispery, quiet track with the whispery vocals, and it has this tropical, dreamy vibe. While I don't think it's a great track, I still think it's really sweet sounding, and I like it. And we have the track Woman, which is another really long-winded track that's even more emotional, sad, and spacey. We get these idly guitars and these sad hooks delivered from Angel Olsen, and at the end we get Pops, where Angel Olsen talks about Pops and her father. And yeah, even though the lyrical topic of the track is pretty nice and it's a pretty sad tune overall, I still think the pianos could have been a little more dynamic. But still, overall, I love this album so much. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say about the album. It's solid, it's beautiful, it's sweet, and I'm giving Angel Olsen's My Woman an 8 out of 10 as well. And my favorite track here is Shut Up, Kiss Me, and my least favorite is a Heart-Shaped Face. And then for the third album, I'm going to be talking about Swain, The Long Dark Blues. Swain is a Dutch garage grunge punk band who is formerly known as This Routine as Hell, but with this name change, they also had a change in sound and style, and I am actually really surprised that this album is just so good. So yeah, first of all, this album is a really well performed album. A lot of passionate performances, funny performances as well. It's pretty hardcore as well, and a lot of disorienting 90s throwback Nirvana flavored grunge rock influences on this album, and the lyrical topics here are actually really sad. So yeah, the album starts off with Hold My Head, which is a very fun and refreshing start with the very funny grunge hardcore style that they're putting out. And then the second track is Half Asleep, Half Awake. It's really funny as well. It's also very disorienting, and the vocals are really whack, and I actually really like the energy. And then the third track is Punk Rock Messed You Up, Kid. And on this track, it's like they're retelling what other people told them, but in the chorus, they sort of accepted this as well. And the vocal performances in the choruses, the harmonies, they're actually really bittersweet and again fun. And we have Never Clean My Room, which is one of my favorite tracks on the album, if not my favorite. It's this very disorienting, dizzying, weird ballad that actually is very, very sad. The lyrics are very soul-crushing, and it talks about how I never clean my room. If I get sick of it, I just move on. So it kind of talks about how much of a failure you are, not like you literally, but like how much of a failure this person is, and how he or she wouldn't fix it, and he or she would just move on. And it's actually really sad, and it's like this moment of clarity in the midst of all this chaos. And then we have Hard to Make Friends, which is a very despondent and dissonant and sad tracks with some minimalistic guitars, and I actually really like the sound of it and the texture of it as well. And for the track Kiss Me Hard, it has some crispy ding-dongy guitars that are really sweet, some really nice descending chord progression, and it has a really fun hook. And at the same time, this track sounds like Nirvana's Lithium in a really, really good way, and the performance is really passionate and it's full of rage. The next track is titled Faze Me, and it's another really aggressive, heavy, hardcore punk rock track with some really, really smart lyrics comparing things with other things. And the song is about challenging yourself, making yourself do things that you are previously afraid of doing. And I also really like the eerie guitars. And the next track, Secrets Inside, it's a little more slower, but it hits harder, I think, with the very punchy drums and the very shouty vocals that sound almost like talking. And it has some slow, buzzy guitars that has a dreamy quality to it, and the track overall feels very angsty with these lyrical topics about being insecure. And I also really like the country vibe of the track. And then we have I Seen a Good Man in a Bad Mood. Yes, that's the title. First of all, the lyrics, they are really smart and really colorful, and it has this really solid 90s nostalgic throwback vibe with some really sad instrumentals, and I love it. However, the track You're Not Special is almost as quiet and as sad as Hard to Make Friends, except the track is kind of drab. It's actually even quieter. And the track Hoping For It, it's night and day with the previous track. It's way louder. It sounds really hopeless as well with the really aggressive and violent guitars, but the lyrics saying, I'm not doing shit, I'm not doing shit, and it's a really hopeless track. Really sad as well. And for the second last track, it's titled Strange Way Down, with some really sad and dreary spoken word lyrics and some tiptoey guitars that are really sad. And slowly burning, fading, burning, fading. The lyrics on this track, they are actually really, really sad, surprisingly. And the album ends off with Rid Myself of You. Even though instrumentally speaking, it's not that great, I still really like the chromatic scale, fiddling guitar jam. It's really awesome. And the lyrics are actually really conclusive. And overall, the album just dives so much into the topic of self-destruction and anxiety and feeling like a failure, and while keeping this really passionate and energetic and kind of sad performance. I actually really, 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 really love it. I'm giving Swain's The Long Dark Blue an 8 out of 10, and I'm saying my favorite track here is Never Clean My Room, and my least favorite is You're Not Special. You're not. Nope. And then let's talk about another really sad and dark album that is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Skeleton Tree. Nick Cave is an Australian singer-songwriter who had been in the music industry for quite some time now, and prior to releasing this album, he had lost his son, and it must be hard for him. I'm sorry for him. And thus this album has this really dark, depressing, sad quality to it. A lot of the lyrical topics here dabble into death, life, mortality. Just the album opener alone already sets the tone for the rest of the album. It's just so dark with the very tense, drony backdrop of the track, and the lyrics on the track are basically spoken word that almost feels like it's made up on the fly, but at the same time it's really poetic, and it's kind of cryptic as well, as Nick Cave talks about this drug addict, talks about this girl who's being enslaved by these sexual desires, talks about an African doctor collecting tear ducts and saying that I am calling you, and it's really strange, really surreal, and also really sorrowful, and it's beautiful, and it needs repeated listens. And then we have the second track, Rings of Saturn, which is really spacey and really depressing, and it has these backup vocals that goes oh like that, and it sounds kind of annoying at first, but later on I guess I kind of tolerate it. I also really like the glistening keys and the very light drums, and on the track Nick Cave talks about a girl being enslaved to these sexual desires, and yeah, it's also a pretty sad track. And then we have Girl in Amber, which is also really, really sad, with these very lonely and lost and alienating pianos that sound really wintry, and the lyrics are really interesting, talking about death and afterlife. And the core vocals are really, really dreary and beautiful, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album as well. And then we have Magneto, which is the quietest track on the album. Really spacey, really quiet, really minimal. At some moments it's a little stale and it's a little slow, but I still kind of like it a little bit. I really like the dark, groany bass on the track as well, and the performances by Nick Cave is just really dramatic and soul-crushing. And we have Anthrocene, which is easily the most despondent and messiest track on the album. It's like all these weird sound effects and these different track samples colliding into one another in a really choppy way, choppy manner, and once again, the performance feels really interesting. And then we have the track I Need You, which is easily the most accessible track on the entire album, with some soft rock backdrop with some thick synths and these watery instrumentals. But however, the lyrics are equally as depressing. We have Nick Cave singing nothing really matters over and over again, and it's actually really sad. And then we have Distant Sky, which is also really, really sad and very, very spacey as well. It almost sounds like a church gospel song, but in a very sad and depressing way. The guest vocals here are very angelic and beautiful, and it sort of contrasts Nick Cave's vocals being really raspy and low-pitched and sort of broken. And then the album ends off with the title track, which is almost like a glimpse of hope, but at the same time it's just so soul-crushing, just so heavy-hearted, just so sad. The vocals, they are very ghoulish, and they are very haunting. And oh man, this album, the way it ends off, it just brings me such an empty feeling. And overall, even though musically speaking, I don't think it's spectacular or anything, I don't think it's really colorful. In fact, it's pretty much the opposite of being colorful. It's dark, it's depressing, and it conveys a lot of emotions. I'm also giving this an 8 out of 10. Yes, I'm giving 8s left and right. And my favorite track here is Jesus Alone, and my least favorite is Magneto, I guess. And then let's talk about 2 terrible albums, bad albums. Number 1, I'm going to be talking about A$AP Ferg with Always Strive and Prosper. And yeah, I don't want to spend too much time talking about albums that I don't like, so I'm going to speed through most of the tracks here. So A$AP Ferg is a rapper from New York, and he has a lot of potential, to be honest. This album sounds like it has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, he tries too hard to sound commercial as hell, and pretty much all of the tracks here fall completely flat. First of all, we have the album opener Rebirth, which is this annoying album opener that sucks totally because it has this weird flavor with the wild vocals and weird flows, and the track Hungry Ham sucks. Oh my gosh. we get this really obnoxious and repetitive hook, hungry ham, and Skrillex produced the beat, and the beat totally sucks. It's lazy, and it totally doesn't fit the rapping style that A$AP Ferg has. The track Strive almost has a completely different style with this very stripped back hip house beat, and then we have A$AP Ferg's performance on top. His delivery is so goofy, sounds so awkward, and we get these ow 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 ad-libs, and the lyrics are just so fucking weird. It's one of the worst tracks on the album. And then we have the track New Level featuring Future, which is basically this very forgettable and generic trap rap track with some mumble performances from Future. And we also have more generic trap rap tracks like Swipe Life featuring Rick Ross. Terrible flow, first of all. It's loud, it's messy, and it's this very annoying, shouty track. It's too loud for its own good. And then we have Uzi Gang, which is another really generic trap rap track. Even though I like Lil Uzi Vert's performance, he goes hard on the album. But still, overall, come on, really? And, oh man, what else are there? Yeah, the last track, Grandma, it's a little trap flavored, but at the same time, it's very moody and very airy, and I couldn't help but to forget about it because it's such a forgettable ending to the album. We have the track Yammy Gang, and it features the entire A$AP mob, and yet this track feels so uneventful and raw, and not in a good way, but in a lazy way. It's so stripped back. And the track Beautiful People, it's, A$AP Ferg turns into Marvin Gaye on this track. He turns into A$AP Marvin. Oh my gosh. However, I do have to admit that I kind of enjoy the soulful instrumentals, and it's like a moment of clarity in the midst of all the shit songs in the album. And then immediately after, we have Let You Go, which is this very corny, cheesy, buttery breakup song. It's so bad. The instrumentals tries to be this moody, lovelorn instrumental, but it totally falls flat. It sounds so commercial. It sounds so washed down. And the vocals are just so sloppy. And then we have World Is Mine featuring Big Sean, and both of the singing performances from them are terrible. Pure terrible. And the song is airy, kind of spacey, and I just hate how airy and spacey the track sounds. And then we have the track I Love You, which is such a messy and despondent track, and not in a good way. It sounds like two songs are playing at the same time, and this song sounds like a Chris Brown song, more like a Chris Brown song than an actual A$AP Ferg song, because this R&B rap thing isn't even, A$AP Ferg's strong suit, and he's letting Chris Brown dominating a majority of the track, and terrible vocal harmonies, terrible. And the album just ends off with Back Hurt. I guess A$AP Ferg's back was hurt, and it features Migos, and it's easily the most forgettable and head-scratching ending for a rap album I've heard for a very long time. I have no idea why A$AP Ferg would pick this track as the album ender. There's only 2 tracks here, or should I say 3, that I kinda like. My favorite here is Psycho, I guess. The instrumentals here are moodier, a little bit more flavorful, and the song talks about his uncle. The lyrics on the song talks about his uncle, and it's pretty good, I guess. And then we have the track Let It Bang. Even though it sounds a little bit generic, I still like the feature by Schoolboy Q, and it has a really nice trap rap tune for it. And yeah, 3 out of 10, okay? 3 out of 10. 2 to a 3 out of 10. Favorite track here is Psycho, and my least favorite is Hungry Ham. And at the end, I'm going to be talking about 303 with Night Sports. And fuck, this album sucks so much, okay? They basically churn out with these vomit-inducing, stomach-churning electro-pop songs that sound like they are being made by amateurs because yes, 303 are amateurs. They are a duo from the USA, and they make these songs that are just so corny, just so fucking tongue-in-cheek. It's so annoying, so obnoxious. The only track that I think is tolerable is the track Fire in the Heavens, even though I fucking hate the overdramatic, bombastic production. It's trying to sound epic. It's still not a bad tune. I mean, the chorus is still tolerable. The hook is still not that bad, okay? But then we have Mad at You, which is such an intolerable track. It has these very airy, spacey, uneventful verses that suddenly breaks into this very corny, horny, foggy chorus with some synths. The track Hear Me Down really has some Arabic guitars and nothing else. And then we have Freak Your Mind, which tries to be this party banger, and it totally falls flat because it's just so drab. We got some rough vocal layers, and it's annoying as hell. And the rapping on this album sucks so much. It's trying to do the, fun, wild party rapping. And we have Give Me Something to Remember, and it tries to be this relatable pop electronic song, and it sounds totally unoriginal. We have the track BASFM, and it has these vocal layers that just makes me want to throw up. They sound like Eminem's Revival. And we have 7-Eleven. Oh my gosh, I'm impressed at how bad this track is. My gosh, this track is about how, I guess, one of the members of the duo met this girl in 7-Eleven and had a crush, and the hook is garbage. 7-Eleven. The vocals sound dead. The beat sounds like an idiot, a total idiot. And we have the track Inside Boy, which tries to be this loud banger, but again, it falls flat. And then we have Claustrophobia. The last two tracks on the album aren't that terrible, but still, come on, guys. Claustrophobia is this corny ass pop song with these annoying vocals in the back, and the flow of the track is extremely awkward. And the album ends off with Hologram, which isn't terrible, but still, it's just so pointless. What's the point to enjoy this track after all these shit music? And of course, I'm gonna have to talk about My Dick. My Dick. This is one of the worst songs I've heard in the decade. It's so bad. It's so bad. It tries to be funny, but then it's not really funny. Thus, it's cringy. It's one of the cringiest songs I've heard in the entire decade, with the accent switching rapping. Like, sometimes it's this Cockney English rapping. Sometimes it has a French accent. Sometimes Arabic accent. It's kinda annoying. Actually, really, really annoying. It makes me want to punch myself in the face. And then we have the hook, which, oh man, oh my gosh. The song is essentially about the duo's dicks. How their dicks are big like whales, and our dicks, of course, are smaller and less significant in size. And they have to sing the hook in such a dead manner. It's giving me migraines. It's so bad. It's so bad. It makes me want to die. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. 303's Night Sports deserves a 2 to a 3 out of 10. 3 is a generous. Strong 2, okay? Strong 2. I'm giving it a strong 2. Fuck this album. The worst song here is My Dick, and there's no good song here. I guess Fire in the Heavens is one of the better ones? I don't know. But what are your opinions on these 6 albums from 1 to 10? How much did you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.